Hello and welcome to another episode of Now That's What I Call Gaming. If you're new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another great remake. If you remember last time, we started taking a look at some remakes of classic games and how they compare against their original versions. We started off with the classic platformer, Super Mario Bros. Today, we're going to take a look at another great classic, Capcom's Mega Man. Mega Man is a game with a simple concept. An evil scientist is attempting to take over the world with robots, and you as the titular character Mega Man has to stop him. You do this by traversing levels and defeating each robot master, culminating in a final showdown with the Mad Doctor. It's a formula that has been the hallmark of this series. One unique mechanic that this game introduced is the notion of selecting what order you tackle the stages in. Right from the start, you can choose any of the 6 robot masters to face off against. This leads to the second innovation this game brought in, the fact that once you defeat an enemy, you gain their powers which can be used against other enemies. This creates a sort of rock, scissors, paper mechanic where you can tackle the robot masters any way you like. But if you're able to attack them based on weaknesses, it's going to be much easier for you. Once you get past the terrible box art and actually pop this game into your NES, you're in for a ride. This game has some of the tightest platforming controls around, accompanied by some of the best music on an NES. Take a listen here. There's no denying the elephant in the room. This game can be hard. With its disappearing platforms, instant kill spikes, and pinpoint platforming sections, this is one of the many games that coined the phrase Nintendo hard. But that always made it all the more satisfying when you did beat a stage. And when you finally got through to that ending screen, you genuinely felt like you had accomplished something. So just like Nintendo, Capcom developed a compilation of their first 3 Mega Man games, which they called Mega Man The Wily Wars. However, they decided this game wouldn't be released for the Super Nintendo, which is where they were releasing all the other Mega Man games. Rather, this would be the first Mega Man game released on Nintendo's biggest competitor, the Sega Genesis. The result? Mega Man The Wily Wars. Just like Mario All-Stars, all of the first 3 Mega Man games were released here with significant upgrades. However, we need to first address the biggest problem with this game. Americans have been unable to play it! Let me explain. So physical copies of this game were released in both Japan and in Europe. But the North American port was cancelled. Instead of getting a physical copy of the game here, the only way we could play this was by subscribing to Sega's attempt at streaming games, the Sega Channel. Essentially, that was one of the first game streaming services ever made. I remember my first time playing this game. It felt very different. The controls were sluggish, and the music, while it was great, seemed to be very slowed down. It was only later that I realized this was because I was playing the European version of the game, which runs at a much slower frame rate compared to America. So it would run at 50 frames per second as opposed to the standard 60 frames per second rate of games here. While that doesn't sound like a lot, believe me, it makes a tight platformer like this feel incredibly slow and sluggish. Take a listen to the music here in Cutman stage. Here's how it should sound. That slowness extends to all of the gameplay. Compare the speed of Mega Man's bullets between the NTSC and PAL versions. However, the game was released as part of the collection of games on the Sega Genesis Mini in the proper NTSC format. So now we can finally experience this great game. So with the history out of the way, let's take a look at the game. This game is, in a word, awesome. All of the characters, enemies, stages, everything gets a great facelift. One thing they didn't change, the challenge. Yep, they sure didn't skimp on the difficulty here. All of the disappearing platforms, precision platforming, and pitfalls are still here. However, there is one feature that makes this game slightly easier. See, in the NES version, there were no passwords or game saves or even stage select codes. Once you started this game, you either beat it or you started all over. This was typical of a lot of NES games back in the day, but it also meant that, with some games, there was a real possibility of having to turn it off, losing your entire progress, or leaving your system to run for hours and hope you didn't have a power outage. With Wily Wars, after you beat each boss, you have the option to save your game. That way, if you need to leave and come back, you don't have to completely begin again. Like Mario All-Stars, everything about this game has been rebuilt from the ground up. Every stage looks more vibrant and alive. Many levels feature some great parallax scrolling, and in the Fireman level, they have shimmering effects on top of the parallax. All the great music from the original is here, just using the power of the Genesis sound. Take a listen to the music from Electman stage. First from the NES version, and now the Genesis. The game is as polished as you can expect. Capcom really did a great job remaking this, something they continue to be good at to this day, and believe me, those games will be coming up too. Now, for the first time in this series, there's actually a second remake of this game that we need to briefly touch on, and it's called Megaman Powered Up. This game came out in 2006 on the PSP. The overall look of the game is more cutesy than anything else. All of the characters are super deformed and presented in a more cartoony style than the other games. It also features voice acting and adds 2 more Robot Masters to the game, in the new mode they included. See, Powered Up has 2 different modes. One is an original mode, which is basically the same game with the cutesy graphics. One nice touch, they kept the same music from the original NES version of the game. The second mode is called New Style, and it's where the bulk of the new game is. For starters, you have an opening stage similar to future Mega Man games, only this is you starting off as normal Rock, or Mega as they call him here, and then becoming Mega Man. So basically the whole story we first saw in Mega Man 4. You also have access to 8 Robot Masters, the 6 originals and 2 new ones, Time Man and Oil Man. Another unique feature is you have the ability to actually play as defeated Robot Masters in this game. You do this by fully defeating them only using the standard arm cannon. This adds a lot of replay value. So the big question, which version should you play? Well, that's actually a really tough one because unlike Mario All-Stars, your options with this game are very limited. Mega Man is a very popular series, and the games tend to go for high prices. a loose copy of the original NES game will set you back over $70. You could always find one of the many ports of the game, notably the Mega Man Legacy Collection, which is more reasonably priced and gives you the first 6 NES Mega Man games in one package. As for the Wily Wars, there's not a lot of ways to get that one. You could try to find a homebrew version of the game which will give you the full experience on your original Genesis, but those carts are hard to find and you'd be looking at spending upwards of $42 for it. Getting an imported version of the Japanese game, which is called Rockman Mega World, may work, but again, there's no guarantee. You could also get yourself a Genesis Mini, which at the time of this video is the best option, but that may not be available for you, or it may be really expensive. The PSP version of the game is the cheapest by far, coming in at around $12 for a loose copy. But it's not the best version of the game to play. The graphics are cartoony, the background's too bright. It's like Mega Man for kids. But the new modes and features definitely make it worth at least playing one time. So as for which version I recommend, if you can, you should definitely play the Wily Wars version of this game. The simple fact that you can save the game after you beat each Robot Master alone makes this the superior version. But again, finding the copy of this game is gonna be difficult. You may end up having to emulate the game, and as I showed you earlier, if you get the European ROM, you're gonna have to get used to that reduced frame rate. Going for one of the compilations is much easier even if it doesn't have all the spit and polish of the Wily Wars. So personally, I'd recommend going for the Mega Man Legacy Collection. It's available on just about every system including Steam, and it gives you 6 great games for one low price. Hell, if you get the chance, you could buy a copy of Legacy Collection 1 and 2 and get all 10 Mega Man titles and still save yourself some money. Realistically, this is the way I'd recommend playing Mega Man 1, but no matter how you play it, you're going to be in for a great time. As for the PSP version, as I said, it's a good game to play, but it's not the best way to play it. Still, for $12, it might just be worth it. So that's all for today, folks. Tune in next time when we look at another great remake. As always, I welcome your comments and suggestions. In the meantime, thank you for watching Now That's What I Call Gaming.